Thinking, Fast and Slow by Daniel Kahneman is a groundbreaking book that explores the dual systems of thought that drive our decisions and behavior. Kahneman, a Nobel laureate in economic sciences, presents a deep dive into the complexities of human cognition, drawing on decades of research in psychology and behavioral economics. The book is structured into 5 parts, each delving into different aspects of our thinking processes. Part 1. 2 Systems. Chapter 1. The Characters of the Story. In the opening chapter, Kahneman introduces the 2 systems of thought that are central to the book. System 1 operates automatically and quickly, with little or no effort and no sense of voluntary control. It's our intuitive, fast-thinking system responsible for rapid judgments and decisions. System 2, on the other hand, allocates attention to effortful mental activities that demand it, including complex computations and conscious reasoning. This system is deliberate, analytical, and slower. Kahneman explains that while System 1 is always active, providing us with quick impressions and feelings, System 2 takes over when more effortful and logical thinking is required. However, the seamless collaboration between these 2 systems is not without its pitfalls. System 1's rapid judgments can often lead to biases and errors, particularly when faced with complex or unfamiliar situations. System 2, although more accurate, is lazy and often takes shortcuts by endorsing the suggestions of System 1 without much scrutiny. The interplay between these 2 systems forms the basis of the book's exploration into human thought. Kahneman uses various examples and experiments to illustrate how these systems operate and how they influence our judgments and decisions. By understanding the distinct roles and limitations of System 1 and System 2, readers can gain insights into their own thinking patterns and learn to recognize situations where reliance on intuition may lead them astray. Chapter 2. Attention and Effort. This chapter delves into the nature of attention and mental effort, highlighting the finite capacity of our cognitive resources. Kahneman explains that System 2's deliberate and effortful thinking requires significant cognitive resources, which are limited. As a result, when we engage in tasks that demand intense concentration, other cognitive functions may suffer, leading to errors and decreased performance in unrelated tasks. Kahneman illustrates this concept through a series of experiments and real-life examples. For instance, he describes the phenomenon of inattentional blindness, where individuals fail to notice unexpected stimuli in their environment when their attention is focused on a demanding task. This highlights the limitations of our cognitive capacity and the importance of managing our attention effectively. The chapter also explores the concept of cognitive ease and cognitive strain. When tasks are familiar and require little effort, we experience cognitive ease, which leads to positive feelings and increased trust in our intuitive judgments. Conversely, tasks that demand significant mental effort create cognitive strain, which can trigger System 2's analytical thinking. By understanding how attention and effort influence our cognitive processes, we can better manage our mental resources and make more informed decisions. Chapter 3. The Lazy Controller. In this chapter, Kahneman introduces the idea of the lazy controller, referring to System 2's tendency to conserve cognitive energy by relying on System 1's quick and effortless judgments. Although System 2 is capable of critical thinking and complex reasoning, it often takes shortcuts by accepting the intuitive impressions provided by System 1. This can lead to biases and errors, as System 1's judgments are not always accurate. Kahneman explores various cognitive biases that result from the interplay between System 1 and System 2. For example, he discusses the anchoring effect, where individuals rely too heavily on the first piece of information they encounter, the anchor, when making decisions. Even when the anchor is irrelevant or arbitrary, it can significantly influence subsequent judgments. This bias highlights System 2's laziness in scrutinizing the information provided by System 1. The chapter also examines the impact of cognitive load on decision-making. When System 2 is occupied with demanding tasks, its ability to critically evaluate System 1's judgments is impaired. This can lead to increased reliance on intuitive thinking and a higher likelihood of biases. By recognizing the lazy controller tendency, readers can become more aware of their cognitive shortcuts and take steps to engage System 2 more effectively when making important decisions. Part 2. Heuristics and Biases. Chapter 4. The Associative Machine. In this chapter, Kahneman delves into the workings of System 1, describing it as an associative machine that constantly forms connections between ideas, events, and experiences. System 1 operates through a network of associations, where one thought or stimulus triggers related ideas and memories. This associative thinking is automatic and often occurs without conscious awareness, shaping our perceptions and judgments. Kahneman explains how associative thinking can lead to cognitive biases, such as the availability heuristic. This heuristic occurs when individuals judge the probability or frequency of events based on how easily examples come to mind. For instance, people may overestimate the likelihood of dramatic events, like plane crashes or natural disasters, because such events are frequently reported in the media and easily recalled. This bias can distort our perception of risk and influence decision-making. The chapter also explores the concept of priming, where exposure to one stimulus influences the response to a subsequent stimulus. Kahneman describes experiments demonstrating how subtle cues can activate associations in System 1, leading to changes in behavior and judgments. By understanding the associative nature of System 1, readers can become more aware of the subconscious influences on their thinking and take steps to mitigate cognitive biases. Chapter 5. Cognitive Ease. This chapter focuses on the concept of cognitive ease, which refers to the sense of effortlessness and familiarity we experience when processing information. Kahneman explains that when we encounter information that is easy to understand and process, we are more likely to accept it as true and rely on our intuitive judgments. Cognitive ease is influenced by factors such as repetition, clarity, and simplicity. Kahneman discusses how cognitive ease can lead to overconfidence and the acceptance of misleading information. For example, familiar or frequently repeated information is more likely to be perceived as accurate, even if it is false. This phenomenon, known as the illusion of truth, highlights the importance of critically evaluating information rather than relying solely on gut feelings. The chapter also explores the impact of cognitive strain, which occurs when we encounter information that is complex, unfamiliar, or difficult to process. Cognitive strain activates System 2's analytical thinking, prompting us to scrutinize information more carefully. By recognizing the influence of cognitive ease and strain on our judgments, we can become more vigilant in evaluating information and making informed decisions. Chapter 6. Norms, Surprises, and Causes. In this chapter, Kahneman explores how System 1's associative thinking leads to the formation of norms and expectations. When events align with our expectations, they are processed effortlessly and generate cognitive ease. However, when events deviate from our expectations, they create surprises that demand attention and engage System 2's analytical thinking. Kahneman discusses the role of causal thinking in shaping our perceptions and judgments. System 1 tends to create causal explanations for events, even when there is no logical basis for them. This can lead to cognitive biases, such as the hindsight bias, where individuals perceive past events as more predictable than they actually were. By constructing causal narratives, System 1 provides a sense of coherence and understanding, but it can also distort our perception of reality. The chapter also examines the impact of surprising events on decision-making. Surprises can disrupt our cognitive processes and prompt us to reevaluate our beliefs and assumptions. Kahneman describes how unexpected events can trigger emotional responses and influence our judgments. By understanding the interplay between norms, surprises, and causal thinking, readers can become more aware of the factors that shape their perceptions and take steps to improve their decision-making processes. Chapter 7. A Machine for Jumping to Conclusions. This chapter delves into System 1's tendency to make quick judgments and draw conclusions based on limited information. Kahneman explains that this tendency, known as "what you see is all there is," YZATE, leads individuals to focus on the information that is readily available and ignore what is missing. YZATI can result in overconfidence and biased judgments, as individuals fail to consider alternative explanations or additional evidence. Kahneman discusses the role of coherence in System 1's thinking. When presented with a coherent narrative or explanation, System 1 is quick to accept it as true, even if it is based on incomplete or misleading information. This can lead to the formation of strong beliefs and convictions, which may be difficult to change. By recognizing the limitations of Wysiady, readers can become more critical and analytical in their thinking, seeking out additional information and alternative perspectives. The chapter also explores the impact of cognitive biases on decision-making. Kahneman describes how biases such as the halo effect, where positive impressions of a person or thing influence our judgments in other areas, and the confirmation bias, where individuals seek out information that supports their existing beliefs, can distort our thinking. By understanding these biases, readers can take steps to mitigate their influence and make more rational decisions. Part 3. Overconfidence. Chapter 8. How Judgments Happen. In this chapter, Kahneman explores the processes underlying human judgment, particularly focusing on the interplay between intuition and reasoning. He explains that many judgments are made intuitively by System 1, which relies on heuristics and mental shortcuts to arrive at quick conclusions. While these intuitive judgments are often accurate, they can also be prone to biases and errors. Kahneman discusses the concept of heuristics, which are mental shortcuts that simplify decision-making by focusing on a limited set of information. He highlights common heuristics, such as the availability heuristic, where judgments are based on how easily examples come to mind, and the representativeness heuristic, where judgments are based on how closely something matches a prototype. These heuristics can lead to systematic errors and overconfidence in our judgments. The chapter also examines the role of System 2 in moderating and correcting the judgments made by System 1. Kahneman explains that while System 2 can provide more accurate and deliberate reasoning, it is often lazy and accepts the quick judgments of System 1 without much scrutiny. By understanding the limitations of our judgment processes, readers can become more aware of their biases and take steps to improve their decision-making. Chapter 9. Answering an Easier Question. This chapter delves into the concept of substitution, where System 1 replaces a difficult question with an easier one to provide a quick answer. Kahneman explains that when faced with a complex or ambiguous problem, System 1 often substitutes it with a simpler and more concrete question that it can answer easily. This process occurs automatically and without conscious awareness, leading to intuitive but potentially flawed judgments. Kahneman provides examples of how substitution occurs in everyday decision-making. For instance, when asked how happy they are with their lives, people might substitute this complex question with the easier question of how happy they are right now. Similarly, when evaluating the probability of an event, individuals might substitute this with the ease of recalling similar events. These substitutions can lead to biased judgments and overconfidence. The chapter also explores the implications of substitution for our understanding of human rationality. Kahneman argues that while substitution allows for quick and effortless decision-making, it can also result in systematic errors and biases. By recognizing the tendency to substitute difficult questions with easier ones, readers can become more critical of their intuitive judgments and seek additional information and analysis when making important decisions. Chapter 10. The Law of Small Numbers. In this chapter, Kahneman discusses the law of small numbers, which refers to the tendency to draw strong conclusions from small samples of data. He explains that System 1 is prone to seeing patterns and making inferences based on limited information, often leading to overconfidence and erroneous conclusions. This bias is exacerbated by the human tendency to seek out patterns and causal explanations, even in random data. Kahneman illustrates the law of small numbers with examples from various fields, such as psychology, medicine, and business. He describes how researchers, practitioners, and decision-makers often fall into the trap of overinterpreting results from small samples, leading to incorrect conclusions and misguided actions. This bias can have significant implications, particularly in areas where decisions are based on statistical data and probability. The chapter also explores strategies for mitigating the impact of the law of small numbers. Kahneman emphasizes the importance of using larger sample sizes, considering the variability of data, and being cautious of overgeneralizing from limited information. By understanding the limitations of small samples and adopting a more rigorous approach to data analysis, readers can make more informed and reliable decisions. Part 4. Choices. Chapter 11. Prospect Theory. In this chapter, Kahneman introduces prospect theory, a key contribution to the field of behavioral economics that he developed with Amos Tversky. Prospect theory provides a more accurate description of how people make decisions under uncertainty, challenging the traditional model of rational choice theory. The theory posits that people evaluate potential outcomes relative to a reference point, rather than in absolute terms, and that they exhibit loss aversion, meaning they are more sensitive to losses than to gains. Kahneman explains the key components of prospect theory, including the value function and the probability weighting function. The value function is concave for gains and convex for losses, reflecting diminishing sensitivity to changes in wealth. It is also steeper for losses than for gains, illustrating loss aversion. The probability weighting function shows that people tend to overweight small probabilities and underweight moderate to high probabilities, leading to biased decision-making. The chapter also discusses the implications of prospect theory for understanding human behavior and decision-making. Kahneman provides examples of how loss aversion and probability weighting can influence various domains, such as financial decision-making, risk-taking, and consumer behavior. By understanding the principles of prospect theory, readers can gain insights into their own decision-making processes and recognize potential biases. Chapter 12. The Endowment Effect. This chapter explores the endowment effect, a phenomenon where people assign higher value to objects they own compared to objects they do not own. Kahneman explains that the endowment effect is closely related to loss aversion, as people perceive giving up something they own as a loss, which is more painful than the pleasure of acquiring something new. Kahneman illustrates the endowment effect through experiments and real-life examples. For instance, he describes how participants in studies are willing to pay less to acquire an item than they would accept to sell the same item once they own it. This discrepancy highlights the irrational nature of the endowment effect and its impact on decision-making. The endowment effect can influence various aspects of life, including consumer behavior, investment decisions, and negotiations. The chapter also examines the implications of the endowment effect for understanding market behavior and economic theory. Kahneman discusses how the endowment effect challenges the traditional assumption of rational actors in economics, as it demonstrates that people's preferences are influenced by their ownership status. By recognizing the endowment effect, readers can become more aware of their biases and make more rational decisions in buying, selling, and negotiating. Chapter 13. Bad Events. In this chapter, Kahneman explores how people evaluate and respond to bad events, such as losses, risks, and negative outcomes. He explains that loss aversion and the asymmetry between gains and losses play a significant role in shaping our perceptions and reactions to bad events. People tend to overemphasize the impact of negative events and underweight the impact of positive events, leading to biased decision-making. Kahneman discusses various cognitive biases and heuristics that influence our evaluation of bad events, such as the availability heuristic, where people judge the probability of events based on how easily examples come to mind. He also explores the concept of probability neglect, where individuals focus on the severity of an outcome rather than its likelihood. These biases can lead to irrational fears and risk-averse behavior. The chapter also examines the psychological mechanisms underlying our response to bad events. Kahneman discusses how emotions, such as fear and anxiety, can amplify the perceived impact of negative events and influence our decisions. By understanding the cognitive and emotional factors that shape our evaluation of bad events, readers can become more aware of their biases and make more balanced and rational decisions. Part V. Two Selves. Chapter 14. The Two Selves. In this chapter, Kahneman introduces the concept of the experiencing self and the remembering self as two distinct aspects of our consciousness. The experiencing self is the one that lives in the present moment, experiencing life as it happens. The remembering self, on the other hand, reflects on past experiences and constructs a coherent narrative of our lives. These two selves can have different perspectives and priorities, leading to potential conflicts in decision-making. Kahneman explains that the experiencing self is concerned with the quality of our moment-to-moment experiences, while the remembering self focuses on the overall evaluation of our life and the stories we tell about it. This distinction is crucial for understanding how we make choices and evaluate our happiness. For instance, the remembering self may prioritize memorable events and peak experiences, even if they are brief, over the consistent but less intense experiences of the experiencing self. The chapter also explores the implications of the two selves for understanding human well-being and decision-making. Kahneman discusses how the preferences of the remembering self can lead us to make choices that do not necessarily maximize the happiness of the experiencing self. By recognizing the distinction between these two selves, readers can gain insights into their own decision-making processes and strive to balance the needs and priorities of both selves. Chapter 15. Life as a Story. In this chapter, Kahneman explores the idea that we perceive our lives as narratives or stories, constructed by the remembering self. He explains that the stories we tell about our lives are influenced by the peak-end rule, where the most intense moments, peaks, and the final moments, ends, of an experience play a disproportionate role in shaping our overall evaluation of that experience. This narrative perspective can lead to distortions in our memory and judgments. Kahneman provides examples of how the peak-end rule influences our perception of various experiences, such as vacations, medical procedures, and daily activities. He explains that our memories of these experiences are not always accurate reflections of the actual events, but are shaped by the most memorable and emotionally charged moments. This can lead to biased evaluations and decision-making, as we prioritize peak and end moments over the overall quality of the experience. The chapter also examines the implications of the narrative perspective for understanding human well-being and happiness. Kahneman discusses how the stories we construct about our lives can influence our sense of identity and fulfillment. By recognizing the role of the remembering self in shaping our narratives, readers can become more aware of the factors that influence their memories and judgments, and strive to create more balanced and accurate evaluations of their experiences. Chapter 16. Experienced well-being. In this chapter, Kahneman delves into the concept of experienced well-being, which focuses on the quality of individuals' experiences in their daily lives. He contrasts this with the concept of life satisfaction, which is a reflective assessment of one's overall life. Kahneman explains that experienced well-being is measured through moment-to-moment tracking of emotions and experiences, providing a more granular understanding of happiness. Kahneman discusses the Day Reconstruction Method, DRM, a tool used to measure experienced well-being by asking individuals to recall and evaluate episodes from their previous day. He highlights how this method reveals fluctuations in happiness and well-being throughout the day, influenced by activities, social interactions, and environmental factors. By understanding these fluctuations, individuals can identify patterns and make changes to enhance their daily experiences. The chapter also explores the factors that contribute to experienced well-being, such as social relationships, meaningful activities, and physical health. Kahneman emphasizes that while life satisfaction is important, focusing on improving experienced well-being can lead to more immediate and lasting happiness. By recognizing the distinction between these two aspects of well-being, readers can take a more holistic approach to enhancing their quality of life. Conclusion. In the concluding chapter, Kahneman reflects on the key insights and implications of the dual systems of thought and the various cognitive biases discussed throughout the book. He emphasizes that while System 1 provides quick and intuitive judgments, it is prone to errors and biases that can lead to flawed decision-making. System 2, although capable of more deliberate and analytical thinking, is often lazy and influenced by System 1's impressions. Kahneman encourages readers to become more aware of their cognitive processes and the factors that influence their judgments and decisions. By understanding the interplay between System 1 and System 2, individuals can recognize potential biases and take steps to mitigate their impact. This awareness can lead to more rational and informed decision-making, both in personal and professional contexts. Finally, Kahneman highlights the importance of humility in our understanding of human cognition. He acknowledges that while we can improve our decision-making by recognizing and addressing cognitive biases, there are inherent limitations to our rationality. Embracing this humility can help us make more thoughtful and balanced choices, leading to better outcomes and greater well-being. I hope this expanded summary provides a comprehensive understanding of the key concepts and insights. Thinking Fast and Slow by Daniel Kahneman. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this summary and want to dive into more insightful content, be sure to subscribe to Chill Zone. Don't forget to hit the notification bell so you never miss out on our latest book summaries and updates. Join our community of book lovers and lifelong learners by leaving a like, sharing your thoughts in the comments, and spreading the word. Relax, enjoy, and keep expanding your horizons with Chill Zone. See you in the next video.